Okay.
So this is one of my favorite books of all time. It's called The Golden Ass by Apuleius. It's the only novel surviving in its entirety from antiquity. And in it is one of the sexiest, most just wonderful passages that I've ever encountered in all of literature. And the story is about a guy who's very curious about magic. And he finds this woman and he wants her to cast a magic spell on him. And the way he has devised to do this is to piss her off by seducing her maid. And if he seduces the maid and the cook, he succeeds in pissing her off. And what does she do? She casts a spell on him and she turns him into a donkey. And so he spends the rest of the book having to like wander the Roman Empire and figure out how to be turned back into a human. And I actually took this as inspiration to make a short film for my friend Stefan, who has the Petit Hermitage Hotel, and we had a guy turn into a donkey and had a donkey like wandering around the hotel and looking into different rooms and having crazy things happen to him in each room as he tried to get turned back into a human. And so let's see. And instead, I thought I'd found it, but I didn't. Hold on. Damn it. I really wanted to do it in. Yes. Yes. Good, good, good. Okay, so debating these matters, I reached Milo's front door and entered, with the question answered, as the saying goes, overwhelmingly in the affirmative. I did not, however, find Milo or his wife at home. My darling Fotis, that's the housekeeper, was alone in charge. She was preparing the stuffing for some black pudding, and she was mincing the pig's tripes, some of which stood finely shredded on the sideboard, ready for mixing with a gravy that tickled my nostrils with its succulently wafted steam. She was neatly clad in a linen apron with a shining scarlet stomacher that gathered her dress up around her meeting breasts, and she was stirring the stock pot with her rosy little hands, moving around and around above it. And as she stirred and turned the meat, she herself stirred and vibrated congruously all over her supple body. Her loins softly undulated, and her agile spine swayed and rippled in time as she placidly stirred the pot. I was entranced by the sight, and stood in mute admiration, as did that part of me which so far had not intruded. At last I addressed the girl. How finely, my dear Fotis, how gaily you stir your buttocks as you stand over the pot. What a honeyed relish I see you getting ready. A happy man, a blessed man, is he who you'd let dip finger there. Be off, you poor fellow, answered the young chatterbox, never at a loss for a repartee. Be off from my fireplace, keep your distance, for if the tiniest spark of the heat grazes you, you'll be scorched to the gizzard, and no one will be able to quench you but myself, for I'm very good at putting choice spice into pot or bed, and making them both equally stirring. Chattering thus, she glanced at me and smiled, and I did not leave the room until I had diligently scrutinized every angle of her charm. But why divagate into detail? It has always been the prime concern of my life to observe in public the heads and tresses of beautiful women, and then to conjure the image at home for leisurely enjoyment. This procedure is based on a clear and rationally determined proposition. Firstly, that hair is the most important visible part of the body, and that from its prominent position it provokes attention first. Secondly, that hair, by its natural hues, provides that comeliness for the head which the gay tints of flowering dresses provide for the other limbs. Moreover, most women, to commend their natural charms and graces, discard all mufflers, throw open their cloaks, and proudly delight in exhibiting their naked breasts, knowing that there is more delectation in the rosy glow of the skin than there is in the golden sheen of a dress. On the contrary, though even the supposition is irreligious, and I pray that there may never be an instance of so horrible a monstrosity, if you despoil the most surprisingly beautiful woman of her hair, and denude her face of its natural accommodation, though she were dropped down from heaven, conceived of the sea foam, cradled among the waves, though she, I say, were Venus herself, though she were zinged around by the three graces, and environed with the whole mob of cupids, and laced with her love girdle, fragrant as cinnamon, and dewy with balsamum, if she came out bald, she would not be able to seduce even her own husband. What satisfying hues and tangled lusters burn in woman's hair! Sometimes it briskly repels the flash of the sun, sometimes it is absorbed in a softer penumbra, or glistens with varying toilets of light. Now it coruscates with gold, now it deepens into honey-colored shadows, now it is raven and black, now it reflects the blue flower tints of a dove's throat, and then, when it has been anointed with Arabian nard, or parted by the fine teeth of the artful comb, or looped up at the nape of the neck, the lover looks upon it and sees there his own face, as in a mirror, enhanced by delight. Oh, what beauty in hair, whether in braided luxuriance it is twisted together and built up upon the head, or whether it is allowed to tumble in prolix curls down the back. Such, I conclude, is the dignity of hair, that no woman whosoever, though dressed up with gold, tissues, gems, and all other commercial apparatus, could be described unless she had duly arranged her hair as dressed at all. But as far as my photos was concerned, it was not toilet care, but ringleted freedom that crowned her charms. Her plentiful hair, thrown loosely back and hanging down to her nape, was scattered over her shoulders and rested softly upon the swelling fringe of her dress, till at last it was gently collected and fastened up by a knot on the top of her head. I could no longer bear the excruciation of such exquisite pleasure, and bending forward, I impressed a most delicious kiss on the spot where her hair was heaped on the crown of her head. She twisted away and looked at me over her shoulder with sidelong and marrow-sucking glances. Hey now, my scholar, she said, sweet and bitter is the sauce you lick. Take care that the sweetness of an overdose of honey doesn't choke you bitterly with bile for many a fine day. How is that, my merriment? I asked, for I am ready to be laid flat for basting over the fire as long as I am recruited every while by a tiny kiss. And as good as my word, I embraced her more straitly and began kissing her. With that, her own desires kindled, and a mutually waxing ardor twined our bodies akin in love. Cinnamon was the exaltation of her opening mouth, and she succumbed to my kiss, while her quickening tongue ravished me nectarously. I'm going, I said. No, I'm a gone man already, unless you take pity on me. Repeating the exploit of her kiss, she answered, Raise up your spirits, man. I am fettered to you by the same leg cuff of desire, and our pleasures won't be delayed very much longer. At the first flicker of torch time, I shall be in your bedroom. So be off, and gird yourself ready, for I mean to have a night-long bone to pick with you, and there'll be no flinching on my side. After some further similarly pointed remarks, we separated. About the hour noon, okay, then some other stuff happens, and he then has to go, he waits for the evening to meet with her again. And, hold on. Here we go. No sooner was I laid in bed than lo, Fotis. Her mistress had now retired for the night, and the girl had come to me, gaily garlanded with roses, and with one rose in full blossom opening between her breasts. She embraced me with fast kisses, and tied a wreath about my head, and strewed flowers over me. And then she snatched the cup, and pouring warm water into it, she proffered me a draught. And before I had finished, she indulgently took the cup away from my lips, and sipped the remainder of the wine with little dainty bird-like sips, keeping her eyes intently on me all the while. Another cup, and then a third we shared thus, passing the cup to and fro, until I was drenched in wine, and every inch of my body partook in my perturbed desire. I felt ticklishly elevated, with all my energies keyed up, and now with one tweak I demonstrated incontestably to my Fotis my straightforward intention. Pity me, I said. Come to my succor on the spot, for you can see that I am nervously taut with expectation of this pitched battle to which you have challenged me without any go-between of a herald. Ever since the first arrow of pitiless Cupid twanged in my vitals, I've been standing to arms, and now I'm fairly scared that the bowstrings should snap with overtension. But if you would humor me more richly, let down your wild hair, and while it falls about your shoulders, undulatingly utter lovely embraces. In less than a heartbeat, she pushed away with one sweep all the plates and dishes, and stripped herself of every stitch. Her hair tumbled down in blithe wantonness, and she stood before me metamorphosed into a Venus, who rose beautifully from the trough of the sea. For a moment of coquettish craft, shadowing, it would hardly be called modestly protecting, her depilated femininity with rosy palm. Fight, she said, and fight stoutly, for I won't budge a hair's breadth, nor turn my back. Face to face, I say, if you're a man, strike home. Maneuver into position busily, and die the death. Today, the battle is waged without quarter. With these words, she leaped into bed, and saddling and bridling me, she rode agilely into pleasure. In the process, she showed herself to possess a spine of pliant lubricity, and she satiated me with the enjoyment of Venus on a swing, until stretched at the last gasp of ecstasy, with languid bodies, we fell twined in a warm and mortal embrace, pouring out our souls. In these and like entanglements, without a sigh of sleep, we came up in the confines of light, charming away moments of lassitude, and with the wine cup, once more awakening desire and replenishing delight, and a good many more nights we spent in devices similarly pleasant. Isn't that magnificent?
Wonderful.
Cut!